Welcome to Cheatlogue, where the shadows of devotion often conceal the sharpest deceptions. Tonight, we unravel a tale that will freeze your heart and shatter your sense of trust. A groom who gave everything, only to uncover that his bride spent her last night of freedom in the arms of her former lover. How do you carry on when the vows are already spoken, but the trust was broken before they began? Stay with us as we reveal this chilling account of passion, deceit, and the night that destroyed everything. I always imagined betrayal would be loud, yelling, tears, maybe a shattered plate or two. But when it came for me, it arrived quietly, hidden in a text I was never meant to read. It was 2 nights before our wedding. The rehearsal dinner had wrapped hours earlier. Friends and family had returned to their hotels. The night was calm, warm, humming with that unreal anticipation only a wedding weekend brings. I was stretched across the couch, scrolling my phone, when hers lit up on the kitchen counter. I don't usually pry, I swear. But the screen glowed in the dark, and a single word pulled my eyes. Tonight. The message was from a name I hadn't heard in years, Ethan. Her ex. My chest tightened. I knew Ethan. He was the college boyfriend who left her shattered, the reason she claimed she was done with childish men before we met. He was supposed to be gone. A ghost of her past, nothing more than a story told over wine. But why now? Why him? I froze, then without thinking, my hand grabbed her phone. The preview read, "Tonight. Are you still coming? Still coming?" My pulse thundered so hard I could barely hear the hum of the fridge. I opened it. The thread was short. Her, I don't know if I should. It feels wrong. Him, one last time. Just to say goodbye. Her, it has to be tonight. Tomorrow's too close. That was sent an hour before the rehearsal dinner. The floor beneath me tilted. My fiancée, the woman I was set to marry, was arranging to see her ex 2 nights before our vows. And one last time. What was that supposed to mean? I didn't sleep. I lay stiff in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her steady breathing beside me. Every rustle of the sheets felt like a betrayal. By morning, she was glowing, laughing with her bridesmaids, fussing over details, kissing my cheek as though everything was fine. I wanted to explode, to shout, "Who are you?" But I stayed silent. Watching. Waiting. I told myself there had to be another explanation. That evening, she told me she'd spend the night at her friend Lena's. A final girls' night before the wedding. I nodded. Of course, one last night of freedom. I forced a grin, but my voice cracked. She smiled, kissed me, and left. I waited half an hour before getting in my car, my hands trembling against the wheel. She said she was going to Lena's, but her car didn't head that way. I kept my headlights dim, far enough back so she wouldn't notice. She drove across town, to Ethan's side. I recognized the neighborhood. We'd passed it once, and she went rigid, as though seeing a ghost. My chest caved as I watched her park, step out, walk up to a familiar door. She knocked once. He opened it. And then, she stepped inside. I don't know how long I stayed there. Minutes, maybe hours. Rain began to fall, thin, cold lines sliding down the windshield. Each second pressed tighter on my chest until breathing felt impossible. She never came out. At 2 a.m., I drove home alone. The wedding morning arrived like a cruel joke. My phone buzzed with messages. "Can you believe it's finally here? So happy for you both." My mother called about flowers. My best man asked about cufflinks and her. Then her text came, "Morning, love. Can't wait to see you." I stared at those words until they blurred. Love, was that what last night was? I didn't confront her before the ceremony. Maybe I was weak. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd admit it herself. But she didn't. She walked down the aisle glowing, looking like the woman I thought I knew. Eyes sparkling, veil trembling with each step. When the officiant asked, "Do you take this man?" she smiled and said, "I do." And I said it back. Because in that moment, surrounded by family, I couldn't tear everything apart. Not yet. The first week of marriage was torture. I played the part. Kissed her goodnight, made her breakfast, went to work like nothing was wrong, while my mind replayed that night again and again. Finally, on a rainy Thursday evening, I broke. She was in the kitchen, humming, scrolling on her phone. I placed her other phone on the counter, the one I had taken from her bag, still filled with messages she hadn't erased. "I followed you," I said quietly. My tone flat, almost calm. "The night before the wedding." She froze. Her hand went limp, the phone clattering to the counter. Her face turned pale. What are you talking about? Her laugh was sharp, fake. I looked at her. Really looked. Don't. I saw you go into his place. I sat there for hours waiting for you to come out. You never did. She pressed her hands to her face. It wasn't what you think. Then tell me what it was, I snapped. My voice cracked like a whip. Tell me what one last time meant. Silence. Tears filled her eyes. I panicked. Everything was happening too fast. The wedding, the pressure. I just needed to say goodbye. To make sure I was ready to let go. I stared at her, my chest aching. You needed to sleep with him to know that. She flinched like I'd struck her. It wasn't like that. Don't lie to me. That night, we didn't share a bed. I lay awake on the couch, listening to the rain. The same rain that had fallen that night. Everything felt like a circle I couldn't escape. The next few weeks blurred into half arguments and quiet dinners. She begged for forgiveness. Called it a mistake. Said she chose me, didn't she? She married me. But every time she touched me, I felt Ethan's shadow between us. Friends noticed. My mother asked if we were okay. I smiled and said marriage was just an adjustment. The truth. I was drowning. One night, I found myself parked on that same street again, staring at Ethan's house. Wondering if she'd gone back. Wondering if he was laughing somewhere, bragging about the wife he borrowed before the wedding. I didn't knock. I didn't want answers anymore. I already knew them. 3 months in, I filed for annulment. She cried, begged, said, "We can fix this." I shook my head. No. We started with a lie. I can't build a life on that. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal, it was the emptiness after. Waking up and reaching for her only to find cold sheets. Catching her perfume lingering in the closet after she'd moved out. Realizing the woman I thought was my forever was just passing through. I learned betrayal doesn't always burn you with fire. Sometimes it leaves you standing in ashes, wondering if you imagined the whole thing. A year later, she sent me an email. I think about that night every day, she wrote. Not the one with him. The night you found out. The night I saw what I'd done to you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you found some peace. I didn't reply. By then, I had. Peace didn't come from her words. It came from finally accepting that love built on doubt isn't love at all. I share this not for pity, but because people romanticize weddings as the finish line. They're not. They're a doorway. And sometimes, when you open it, someone else is already waiting inside. All I wanted was one last wild night of freedom before becoming a husband. She wanted the same, but with someone else. And that made all the difference. Betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers just before you say, I do. What would you have done in his place? Walk away before the wedding, or try to rebuild what was broken? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story struck a chord, subscribe to Breakup Cheater, where every shadowed heart has a story to tell. Until next time, trust carefully, love deeply, and never ignore the quiet warnings before forever.